Here we will be installing Red Hat Enterprise 6 64-bit. We are using VMware Workstation for installing this RHEL 6. You can use VirtualBox also. VMware Workstation you can download. 1 month trial is available. So whenever we have to install in VMware Workstation, what we are going to do, we will say create new virtual machine. As such, when we are installing in physical labs, we will take physical system, but in virtualization we will be using new virtual machine. When you are a beginner in virtualization, always use the typical option. If you have got advanced knowledge of virtualization, you can use customer, but in our case we will be using typical. So just click on next. There are various options available, but please try to choose I will install the operating system later on. Later on does not mean that we will be installing after 1 month, just after 5 minutes. When we are going to choose this I will install the operating system later on, it is going to ask us certain options. When it is going to ask for the options, we will have greater knowledge of the concepts. So in my case I am choosing I will install the operating system later on. I will click on next. You can install any type of operating system. It could be Windows, Linux, Solaris, but in our case we are selecting the Linux. And which Linux? Ubuntu or Red Hat Enterprise. Even if you are installing CentOS, you have to choose this option, Red Hat Enterprise. In our case we are having this ISO, so I will be choosing Red Hat Enterprise Linux 6, and that is 64-bit. We will create some shortcut name, RHEL 6, because in my case in C drive there is very little space available, so I am using in my D drive. I have created one exen folder, so I will be installing there, because in my C drive I am not having much space available. How much space I need? I am just going to give 20 GB. Now what it is going to do, it will create 20 GB of file on your D drive, and plus other option are store virtual disk as a single file, whether this 20 GB will be as a single file or multiple file. We are for performance issue, we are choosing split virtual disk into multiple file. It will create almost 2 GB files. Finish. As can be seen, it is showing the tabs RHEL 6. That does not mean we have successfully installed that. It is just a tab. We have to make certain changes in settings. 2 GB is, we will say, because my laptop is having 8 GB RAM, I am just allocating 10024 MB to this processor 1. You can always choose, because I am having i7 processor, I will be choosing processor virtualizer. If you are not having i processor, leave it in the default options. Then I am choosing the networking as a bridge, because I want this guest machine to be able to connect with other guest machines. And in my case I will specify the path of the ISO. In my case the path is in soft directory. In soft directory this is the ISO. I will say OK. Now we will start the installation. I have to say start up guest operating system. It will ask for certain things, in which language you want to install, keyboard type. Now there are many options available. We will be choosing install or upgrade an existing system. So I will click on this. It will take few seconds. Whenever it will ask certain things, we will, according to our needs, we will specify the options. We will wait for some time for the next screen to come. It's still booting. Oh, there it is showing the option. What option it is showing? To begin testing the media before installation, press OK. Sometimes when we are installing from CD or DVD drive, that CD or DVD drive media could be corrupt. So if we are going to press OK, it is physically going to check that media. If it is OK, then only it will start the installation. But this option will take another 7 to 8 minutes. So in this case, we will be choosing skip. We do not want to test the media. Now it is saying the message local media found. There are many methods of installing. You can perform remote installation also, but here we are performing local installation. I'm making little bit the screen. I will choose the full screen mode. Sometimes it is not visible, so you can choose the full screen mode. Here we cannot go back, we have to go next. Which language? It is available in many languages, English, Hindi, even in Punjabi, but we will be choosing English. Keyboard default US English. Basic storage devices. If you are installing on hard disks, we will be choosing basic storage devices. If you are trying to install on SAN type of devices, you can use specialized devices. In our case, we will be choosing basic storage devices, and we will say next. Now this option will be specific to virtualization. If you are performing physical installation, this option will not come. What it is saying, it is going to format your drive. It is not saying that it is going to format your C drive or D drive. It is just asking whether it should format that 20 GB that we have allocated. Here we have to say yes, you want to discard the data. If you are going to say no, then in next screen it will say hard disk not found. So just remember one thing, here you have to select yes, discard any data. Now we will give certain names to this system. So I'm just giving the name server 51.example.com, or you can leave it in the default. But it is always recommended to give one proper name to your system. In my case, I'm giving server 51.example.com. Next, in which country you are, you have to select. In my case, I'm choosing Asia, Kolkata. Next, you have to specify a 6-character password. I'm giving 1 2 3 4 5 6 as the password, although it is not recommended giving this simple password. Later on you can also change. So in my case, I'm just giving the password 1 2 3 4 5 6. Next, it will give the message it is a weak password. We will say use anyway. Now this is one very important screen. There are various options available. Use all space mean it is going to tell you the whole 20 GB of the space. But in our case, what we are going to use, we will be, most of the time we will be using create custom layout. So I'm choosing this create custom layout. That means we want to create the partition ourselves. Now we will be creating 3 partitions: boot, root and swap. That is the recommended practice. But sometimes, according to, suppose you have to implement the quota, then you can create another partition, 4th home partition. But in our case, we are just creating 3 partition. Create. You can create a partition of RAID type also, fault tolerance or LVM type. But in our case, we are using just standard partition. Create. First partition is boot. The recommended size is 200. 200 is more than sufficient. Then create standard partition / the person who are from Windows background, their C drive is the main drive. In the Linux, this system root, this is the main drive. I'm giving it at least 14,000. According to, if you have got less space, you can reduce it, but at least give it 8 GB, 800 MB. Oh, sorry, 8000 MB space at least. In our case, we are giving 14 GB of the space. Third partition is swap partition. It should be double of your RAM. In our case, we have given 1024. So okay, that was the most important screen, how to create the partitions. Still some space is left. Later on we will be implementing certain concept like RAID and LVM. For that purpose we have kept this unallocated space. We will be using it later on. Next, it is saying should I format? We will say yes. Write changes to disk. Yes, we will say yes. It is formatting the partitions. Now install bootloader. We are not going to change this. We will keep this option at the default. Next. Now again, this is very important. If sometimes you are in habit of just saying next, if you are now going to say next, it will install very minimum Linux, which is not recommended. So I will be choosing at least desktop. Then customize now. It will install the Linux in GUI mode, although later on we will make it to a default boot in text mode, but we will be plus custom. Now we are saying choose minimum of these packages, plus further ask us for which we want to additional package we want to install. So I will click on next. Select all the servers. We will be later on using these servers. Slowly and slowly, when you become master, you can decide which software you want to install. So I have chosen all the servers. I will say next. Now it will start the installation. It will take 10 minutes for the installation. Meanwhile, we will pause the video and then again come back. But we will be discussing, when it will be installing the software, we will be discussing about certain post installation tasks. Now whenever we are going to install this Linux, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, by default, because we have chosen desktop option, it will default installed in GUI mode. We will be, first task that we will be performing will be to convert into text mode. Now as in the case of Windows, there is a normal mode, safe mode. Same way in Linux there are various modes are available, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now when we are saying that our default Linux will boot in GUI mode, GUI mode is also called 5-number mode in Linux. And another popular mode in Linux is text mode. Text mode is also called 3-number mode. So when our system will boot, we will check what is the default written, whether it is written 5 or 3. We will check one file's name is init tab. We will check that file. In that file we will check what is the default level, initial default booting level. If it is 5, we will make the change from 5 to 3, so that next time it should boot in text mode. Another options that we will be using, because we are beginner in Linux, we have just started using the Linux, we would like to disable two options. First is firewall. Just remember one thing, Linux firewall is very strong, because initially we are learning, so best practice is to disable that firewall. So we will be running one command, iptables -flush, to flush the rules. Then we will save the rule so that it does not interfere with us learning process. Later on, when we become master of Linux, we will not disable the firewall. We will try to learn the firewall, how to implement the firewall. Another option that you should be disable is SE Linux, security enhanced Linux. Remember, if I am going to implement, I will leave the mode default enable in SE Linux. Certain problems will always be there. Certain things will not work properly. Initially we do not want this type of problems. So what I will be doing, in my case, I will be disabling that. So 3 things I will be doing. First of all, I will change my default booting mode to 3. That means it should default boot in text mode. Second, I will be disabling the firewall. Third, I will be disabling the SE Linux also. Now I am again minimizing the, I want to stop the video, recording of the video. Again we are restarting from where we have paused the video. As can be seen, it is now installing the bootloader. Then it will give us the option of rebooting the system. I'm again entering into full screen mode. It is installing the bootloader. After that, a reboot option will be there. We will reboot the system. As can be seen, congratulations, your installation is complete. It is saying reboot. We will reboot the system. Now we will reboot. Now it will perform certain post installation task. According to the options available, we will select the options. Now it is booting. It will take around about 15 to 20 seconds to boot. As can be seen, it is booting. Now, as we have already said, after installation we will be performing the 3 tasks. One, booting in text mode. Second, disabling the firewall. Third, disabling the SE Linux. So we will be performing those steps one by one. In the next video we will be seeing how to allocate address statically to a Linux system and dynamically. We will be looking at both the options. And then further video we will be see how to implement YAML server. It is still taking time. Welcome. we will say forward. You have to agree to the license. We don't want to connect to the headers. User you want to create, we don't want to create the user. We will create the user in text mode by using user add command. Date is accurate, time is not accurate. Here at this point of time the time is 9:03. Forward. By default k dump is disabled. This is for the people who are in kernel development. Even it requires further RAM, so always keep it disabled. Finish. Again it will reboot. Now it will ask us to enter username and the password. Just remember one thing, the default user in Linux is root. Like in the case of Windows it is administrator. So it is showing just the name that we enter, server 51.example.com. So as a which user we want to enter, as a root user. What is the password? 1 2 3 4 5 6. I will log in. Now I have to open the terminal. Like in the case of Windows, we open generally command prompt for running the commands. In this case, application, terminal. It will open the text mode. First of all, we will open one file. The file's name is init tab. This is very critical via the editor. As can be seen, ID5 mean by default it will boot in GUI mode. We will edit this option. We will make it 3 so that when next time we are going to reboot, it should start in text mode. Now I want to disable the firewall. So I will check the rules. As you can see, there are many rules written. Basically firewall is always there. Whatever rules we have written according to that bit first. Now there are a lot of rules written. So what I am going to do, I will flush the rules. Again I will check whether there is some rule or not. As it can be seen, all the direction input forward policies accept. When I am going to reboot this system, again these rule will come back. So what I have to do, I have to run this command service IP tables save to permanently save the rules. That means almost we have been able to disable the firewall. Third option is disabling the SC Linux. For this purpose we have to make changes into one file. That file's name is etc sysconfig SC Linux. By default the option is SC Linux enforcing. We will make this option to disabled. Escape WK. Now we'll reboot. For disabling the we need to reboot the system. So I will reboot the system. Now we will see in which mode we are going to boot. We will be default, it will now be booting in text mode. We will try to log in as a root user. We will see whether we are successful or not. It will take time. So we have been successful in installing the Red Hat Enterprise. It is very simple. There are many other ways of installing the Linux through networking, kickstart, through PXE, but we have used very simple installer. Later on videos we might be covering all these type of installation. But as a beginner, this is the first step. again it is taking time. As can be seen, the username is root, password is 1 2 3 4 5 6. As we can see, we have been successfully able to enter into our Linux. I just want to check the IP address. Here nothing is given. In the next video we will see how to give IP addresses statically as well as dynamically. If I have to log out, I will just say Control D. Now I have been successfully able to log out.